Here we got Mason hitting, and the same thing, what we see is that constant pattern of that barrel dropping through the zone, okay, and rotating down and around. And the same thing, this is a pattern that we're constantly seeing with a lot of our guys, that top hand just doesn't want to be strong enough to go forward, or the early rotation of the hips. Notice those hips are rotating and that barrel's already staying in position. We have to either A, get our body stronger, or readjust our pattern is what we're seeing. Here we have Nate, and the same thing, Nate, what we've seen is here, look at the hands and the back hip, how they're working up through the zone. They don't work down through the zone, and he finishes above that front shoulder. This is what we're looking for, is right there, above that front shoulder. And the same thing, notice this barrel doesn't drop down. He doesn't drop down anywhere. He rotates that barrel. This is what we're trying to see. And the other thing is that relationship stays alive with the back hip. Notice the hands and back hip work together. He doesn't just rotate the lower half and leave the hands behind. The hands are going with his body. Okay? And the same thing with him in second progression. I would like to see him a little bit more carry that rhythm in the barrel. Notice he's standing still. What he needs is to carry that rhythm in his barrel to create a little bit more time. Notice that head is going ahead and falling. It's causing him to almost adjust his eyes, and you see that same pattern here. And it drops his hands just to that. Okay? Notice whatever we do, it's always going to be within our swing. That's what we have to learn. We got Peter here, and the same thing. Peter needs to be in a better situation to where he has his hands back to the catcher. That knob of the barrel should be facing the catcher, but he's almost in the middle of his body, a little bit towards the shoulder. And let's watch. As he gets it back there, he moves everything too fast. And the same thing, he's opposite. He's casting his hands out and around from the left side. He wants to get to that uphill finish, but we need to figure something out of the lower half, okay? I can't see his back foot from this, but I know when I was taking notes, I wrote he wasn't in the center of his body. He was always leaned to one side or not. Let's be in a good athletic position to go ahead and defend our space. Hands don't get stretched back. Notice that knob is pointing a little bit across that body. So he's going to cast that barrel out and around there. He should hit everything to the weak side and not be strong enough to get into the middle of the field, okay? Here we got Trip here. And the same thing with Trip, barrel drop, and we sink down with it. Let's be more confident and stand and hold our posture through so we don't have to drop that barrel. Notice the barrel drops, casts out and around, and hits a ground ball. Most of the time, with those barrels drop, guys, they're going to hit right into the ground. Here we got Colson. Gets the knob there. Barrel's in a low position in which we can only cover the outer half. And the same thing, Colson and hitters like Colston and Nate have to understand they're bigger guys in our lineup, so they're going to pitch them a little bit differently. They need to understand to use this approach and to be more conscious of all speed. They can't just go into guess mode unless it's early in the games, or they're trying to ambush a guy in a hitter's account, which is 2-0, 1-0, 3-0, 3-1. But we cast out and around with a low finish. Let's try to get that barrel up and create a little bit more space right here. Because right now, your knob's to the catcher, but let's get those hands up so we could have it be in a better posture and we won't have to fall for that breaking ball. The other thing we need to notice here is you're in a 0-2 count. We should be in front of the box, and we should be in a no stride position to us. We should be in second progression, but there's a lot of movement going on right here. So if you got a lot of moving parts, you got to be really good, and you got to have a lot of at bats to go ahead and stay focused through that. Here is Trace. Trace, we're going ahead and stepping out, and the same thing, we're casting our hands out and around. Notice we're losing that barrel position, so it's going to go ahead and cast out. Chest is working uphill, and it's rounding our body. So we're constantly open. Notice the chest is already to left field. We need to go ahead and stop that chest a little bit earlier to let the hands work out in front. Okay? And the same thing, control that lead leg not to step out.